Lee Dae-ho stood in the empty communication chamber, staring at the massive screen that had just gone dark. The silence felt heavy after what he had just witnessed. For the first time in his 20 years as a diplomat, he was completely speechless. The message had arrived without warning. Earth's quantum detection systems had picked up an incoming transmission, using technology that human scientists barely understood. The signal was so powerful that it overrode every communication device on the planet for exactly 3 minutes. When the transmission began, Lee found himself face to face with a being unlike anything humans had ever seen. The creature was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shift between blue and silver. Its eyes were large and completely black, and when it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Greetings, humans of the world called Earth," the being had said. "I am Counselor Valthara of the Kalrani Federation, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. Your species has been chosen for a great honor." Lee had tried to respond, but quickly realized this was not a conversation. It was an announcement. "For over 10,000 of your years, the Galactic Council has watched your world. We have seen your struggles, your wars, your slow progress toward basic civilization. Today, we offer you something that has been given to only 46 other species in galactic history." The being had paused, as if expecting gratitude for words that Lee did not yet understand. "We invite you to join the Galactic Council as a protected member species. You will receive our guidance, our protection, and access to technologies that will improve your primitive conditions. A council regent will be assigned to your world to help guide your development in proper directions." Lee had felt his heart racing. First contact with alien life was something humans had dreamed about for centuries, but something about this offer felt wrong. The words were polite, but the tone was like an adult speaking to a child. "You're violent. Nature and chaotic governments will be managed through our proven systems. Your dangerous scientific experiments will be guided by species with millions of years of experience. Your people will learn their proper place in the galactic community." The transmission had continued for another 2 minutes, listing benefits. That sounded more like restrictions. Humans would be given trading posts in safe sectors of space. They would learn appropriate technologies at suitable speeds. Their military would be restructured for peaceful purposes only. "We expect your grateful acceptance of this generous offer," Valthara had concluded. "You have 7 of your days to prepare a response ceremony. A council ship will arrive to collect your answer. Do not disappoint us with primitive delays or foolish questions. This offer has never been refused." The screen had gone dark, leaving Lee alone with racing thoughts and growing anger. Now, 30 minutes later, he was still standing in the same spot. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage. The alien had spoken about humans like they were pets being offered a home. The door behind him opened, and Park So-min entered the chamber. She was Earth's chief diplomatic advisor and one of the few people Lee trusted completely. Her face was pale, and he could see she had watched the transmission from the monitoring room. "Did you hear all of that?" Lee asked without turning around. "Every word," Park replied, her voice tight with controlled anger. "The entire Leadership Council is in emergency session. They want to know your initial assessment." Lee finally turned to face her. Park had worked with him for 8 years, and she could read his expressions better than anyone. What she saw now made her step back slightly. "My assessment?" Lee said quietly, "They want to make us slaves and call it a gift." Park nodded. "That's what I thought too. But Lee, we need to be careful here. They obviously have technology far beyond ours. That transmission reached every device on Earth simultaneously. Our best scientists say that should be impossible. So we should just accept?" Lee asked. "Bow down and say thank you for the cage?" "No," Park said firmly, "but we need to be smart about this. They're giving us 7 days. We need to use that time wisely." Lee walked to the window that looked out over the city. Seoul looked the same as it had that morning, but everything had changed. Somewhere up in the dark sky, alien civilizations were waiting for humanity's answer to an offer that was clearly not meant to be refused. "Get me Kim Tae-woo," Lee said. I want to know everything our intelligence services have on deep space monitoring. If these aliens have been watching us for 10,000 years, maybe we've been watching them too without knowing it. Park was already reaching for her communication device. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that Counselor Velthara made one. Very important mistake, Lee said, turning back to face her. He told us this offer has never been refused. That means he has no idea what happens when someone says no. Lee, you can't seriously be considering— I'm not considering anything yet, Lee interrupted. But I'm also not going to accept slavery. Just because it comes with advanced technology and pretty words about protection. Park stared at him for a moment, then smiled grimly. You know, when they chose you as Earth's first ambassador to potential alien contact, I think they picked the right person. Why? Because anyone else might have been impressed by the fancy technology and big words. You just heard someone trying to put a leash on the entire human race. Lee nodded. Get Kim Tae-woo? Get Dr. Yoon Ji-hai from the Strategic Analysis Division. Get everyone who's been working on the deep space projects. We have 7 days to figure out who these people really are and what they really want. As Park left to make the calls, Lee turned back to the window. The city below was full of people who had no idea their world had just changed forever. In 7 days, someone would come to collect humanity's answer to an offer that had never been refused. Lee smiled for the first time since the transmission ended. Maybe it was time for the Galactic Council to experience something new. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai had not slept in 3 days. Her office was covered with papers, data screens, and empty coffee cups. The information she had discovered was disturbing, and she was not sure anyone would believe her when she presented it to the Emergency Council. The research had started simply enough. After receiving Lee Dae-ho's request, she had begun analyzing every piece of data humanity had collected about deep space over the past 50 years. What she found hidden in the old records made her question everything the Galactic Council had. Saad, Professor Hamba Ora, thank you for coming, Ji-hai said, as the elderly historian entered her office. Han was one of the world's leading experts on pattern analysis in historical data. If anyone could help make sense of what Ji-hai had found, it would be her. You sounded desperate on the phone, Han said, looking around at the chaos of papers and screens. What have you discovered that has you so worried? Ji-hai pulled up a holographic display showing a map of nearby star systems. Look at these 46 worlds that the Council mentioned. The ones with species that accepted their protection. Han studied the display carefully. Each world was marked with data about when contact was made and how the civilizations had developed. Since joining the Council, what am I supposed to see? Watch the progression over time, Ji-hai said. Activating the timeline function, the display began showing changes on each world over the centuries since Council contact. At first, the protected species showed rapid advancement. Cities grew larger, technology improved, populations increased. But then something strange happened. They all stop, Han whispered, her eyes widening. Every single one of them reaches a certain point and then ... nothing. Exactly, Ji-hai said grimly. For the first 50 to 100 years after joining the Council, these species advance rapidly. Then they plateau completely. No new technologies, no population growth, no cultural changes. They become completely static. Han leaned closer to study the data. This pattern is identical across all 46 worlds. That's not natural development. Something is causing this. It gets worse, Ji said, pulling up another display. I found records of 12 other species that were offered council membership, but refused it. What happened to them? Ji-hai's expression darkened. 3 of them were destroyed completely. Their worlds are now empty. 5 others were conquered and forced into the council system. They show the same stagnation pattern as the willing members, and the other 4? Unknown. They disappeared from all our deep space observations about 200 years ago. No trace of them exists anywhere. Han sat down heavily in a chair, staring at the data. So the Council's protection is actually a trap. They deliberately limit the development of member species. I think it's worse than that, Jihai said. I don't think they see it as a trap. Looking at their behavior patterns and communication style, I believe they genuinely think they're helping these species. How could they think limiting development is helpful? Because they value stability above everything else. To them, a species that reaches a steady state and maintains it forever is a success story. They prevent wars, suffering, and chaos by simply stopping all change. While Jihai and Han were analyzing historical patterns, Captain Kang Sujin was having her own disturbing discoveries. She floated in the cramped cockpit of humanity's most advanced stealth ship, currently hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid 3 light-years from Earth. Her mission was simple but dangerous: observe Galactic Council installations and gather intelligence about their military capabilities. What she had found in just 2 days of observation challenged everything humans thought they knew about space warfare. "Control, this is Shadow 7, she whispered into her communication system. "I'm transmitting data now, but you're not going to believe this." The response came back from General Choi Minho, who was monitoring her mission personally. "We're receiving your data now, Captain." "What are you seeing out there?" Sujin looked out at the massive Council space station floating in the distance. It was easily 10 times larger than Earth's largest structures, with weapon systems that could destroy entire planets. But that was not what disturbed her. "Sir, I've been watching their patrol patterns and ship movements for 48 hours. These people are not warriors. They're administrators with weapons." "Explain that, Captain." "Their formations are perfect, their timing is precise, and their technology is incredibly advanced. But they move like they've never actually fought anyone. Every maneuver is textbook perfect, like they learned it from a manual but never had to adapt to real combat." Sujin transmitted detailed scans of the Council ships. "Look at these weapon configurations. They're designed for overwhelming force against stationary or predictable targets. These ships would be devastating against anyone who fights the way they expect, but they have no flexibility for unexpected tactics." "Are you saying we could actually fight them?" "I'm saying they've been so successful with their standard approach that they've never learned to handle anything else. Every species they've conquered or protected has probably followed predictable patterns." Sujin paused, watching as a group of smaller ships approached the station. These were not Council vessels. They had different designs and appeared to be carrying cargo. "Control, I'm seeing something interesting. These appear to be ships from protected species. They're delivering resources to the Council station." She activated her ship's advanced sensors to scan the cargo vessels. What she found made her stomach turn. "Sir, these ships are carrying rare minerals, manufactured goods, and people. The protected species aren't just being governed by the Council, they're being farmed." Back on Earth, the Emergency Council meeting had been going on for 6 hours. Representatives from every major nation sat around the table, but the discussion kept coming back to the same impossible question: how do you say no to beings with the power to destroy your entire civilization? Lee Dae-ho stood at the front of the room, having just finished presenting all the intelligence they had gathered. The faces looking back at him showed a mixture of fear, anger, and determination. "So our options are simple," said President Chun. Wei Lin. "Accept slavery disguised as protection or face almost certain destruction." "Those might not be our only options," Lee replied. "Dr. Yoon's research shows that the Council has operated the same way for thousands of years. They make the same offer, expect the same response, and use the same methods when that response doesn't come." "What are you suggesting?" asked Prime Minister Sarah Johnson. "I'm suggesting that they've never encountered a species like us. Every civilization they've met has either been impressed by their technology and grateful for protection, or been too primitive to offer meaningful resistance." General Choi Min-ho stepped forward. "Ambassador Lee, I've been reviewing Captain Kang's intelligence reports. The Council's military is powerful but predictable. If we had to fight them, we might have advantages they don't expect." "What kind of advantages?" "They fight like they've read every textbook on warfare but never actually been in a real battle. Their tactics are perfect for fighting enemies who do what they expect. But humans... we don't usually do what anyone expects. Lee looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. These people represented every culture, every nation, every philosophy on Earth. They disagreed about almost everything. But today, he saw something he had never seen before, complete unity. "So what is our answer going to be?" asked Chancellor. Maria Santos. Lee smiled, and for the first time since the Council's message arrived, he felt genuinely hopeful. "We're going to give them something they've never received before," he said. "A counteroffer." The Galactic Council chamber was a sight that would have impressed any human who saw it. The massive structure orbited a neutron star, drawing power from the intense gravitational forces. Inside, representatives from 47 different species sat in carefully arranged sections, each designed to accommodate their unique biology and cultural needs. Lee Dae-ho walked slowly down the central pathway toward the speaking platform, with Park So-min and 3 other human representatives behind him. The chamber was completely silent, which was unusual. Normally, council sessions were filled with the sounds of different species communicating in their various ways. Today, everyone was watching the humans. Councillor Velthara sat in the elevated central position, his blue-silver skin seeming to glow in the chamber's lighting. Around him, the senior members of the council watched with expressions that ranged from amused curiosity to barely concealed irritation. "Humans of Earth," Velthara announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You have requested this formal assembly to present your response to our generous offer of protection and guidance. We have granted this request as a courtesy to your primitive customs." Several sounds that might have been laughter came from different sections of the chamber. Lee could see representatives of various species whispering to each other, clearly entertained by what they saw as a ceremony from a backward world. "We are prepared to welcome you into the galactic community," Velthara continued. "Your regent has already been selected and is prepared to begin the process of bringing proper order to your chaotic world." Lee reached the speaking platform and stood quietly for a moment, looking around at the gathered representatives. Some were clearly ancient species, with technology and wisdom accumulated over millions of years. Others appeared younger, but still far more advanced than humanity. All of them were watching him with the same expression: patient tolerance for the quaint customs of a primitive species about to be properly civilized. "Honored Councillor Velthara, esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council," Lee began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic system. "Humanity has carefully considered your offer." "Excellent," Velthara said, leaning forward slightly. "We are pleased that your species has shown wisdom in..." "We decline?" Lee said simply. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the background hum of the station's systems seemed to fade away. Lee could see confusion spreading across alien faces as translation systems worked to make sure they had understood correctly. Velthara's expression shifted from pleased expectation to bewilderment. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" "Our translation systems may have malfunctioned." "Humanity declines your offer of membership in the Galactic Council," Lee said clearly. "Instead, we would like to make you a counterproposal." Now there were sounds from the assembly. Not laughter, but something closer to shock. Several representatives were consulting with advisors, clearly trying to understand what was happening. "Counter-proposal?" Velthara repeated, as if the words made no sense. "You are offering us something?" "We invite the Galactic Council to consider joining the human cooperative," Lee said, activating a holographic projector that Park So-min handed him. "A mutual alliance based on equality, technological sharing, and respect for species autonomy." The chamber erupted. Some representatives stood up, others made sounds of outrage or confusion. In one section, Lee could see younger-looking beings leaning forward with what appeared to be interest. "This is absurd," shouted a representative from the back of the chamber. "What could a primitive species possibly offer advanced civilizations?" Lee smiled and activated his holographic display. The image that appeared showed a star map. but not the familiar territories that Council species knew. This map showed regions of space that the Council had marked as forbidden or impossible to explore. 3 months ago, humanity established its first colony in the void sectors, Lee announced. These are regions your own databases list as too dangerous for any known species to survive. The chamber fell silent again, but this was a different kind of silence. This was the silence of beings trying to process impossible information. Velthara stood up from his central position. That is not possible. The void sectors contain quantum storms that destroy any ship attempting to enter them. No species has ever survived more than a few hours in those regions. Human colonies have not just survived, Park So-min said, stepping forward with her own data display. They are thriving. The quantum storms that destroy your ships are being harnessed by human technology as power sources. She activated her display, showing images of human settlements on worlds that should have been uninhabitable. Cities powered by quantum energy, farms growing in exotic soil conditions, and research stations studying physics that the Council had deemed too dangerous to investigate. Furthermore, Lee continued, humanity has developed faster-than-light communication technology that surpasses anything in the Council databases. We are currently in real-time contact with our colonies in the void sectors, something your own experts said was impossible. A younger representative from the Threnody species raised a tentacle-like appendage. How did you develop such technology? Lee looked directly at the questioner. By refusing to accept that anything is impossible. By embracing chaos instead of fearing it. By trying things that every expert said would fail. This is madness, declared an elderly Kalrani representative. Chaos leads to destruction. Order creates stability. This is the foundation of galactic civilization. Your order has created stagnation, Lee replied firmly. Every species under Council protection has stopped developing, stopped growing, stopped dreaming of new possibilities. You call it stability, we call it death. Velthara's skin was shifting rapidly between colors, a sign of extreme agitation. You dare to criticize a system that has brought peace to 46 worlds? That has ended wars and suffering across thousands of years? You have ended everything, Park So-min said. War, suffering, but also discovery, growth, and the possibility of becoming something greater than what you are today. Lee gestured to his display, which now showed comparative development curves. Look at the data. Every protected species follows the same pattern. Rapid advancement for 50 years, then complete stagnation forever. You have turned entire civilizations into museums. Better a peaceful museum than a chaotic battlefield, Velthara replied. Better to reach for the stars and fail than to sit safely in a cage, Lee shot back. In the younger sections of the assembly, Lee could see beings whispering excitedly to each other. The Threnody representative who had asked the earlier question stood up again. This human cooperative you propose, the being said, would it truly be based on equality? Complete equality, Lee confirmed. No species governs another. No one decides what is appropriate development for someone else. Every member contributes their strengths and learns from others. And if we chose poorly, if we made mistakes? Lee smiled. Then you would learn from those mistakes and try again? That is how progress works. An older representative from the Zephyrian delegation made a sound of disgust. This is exactly the kind of dangerous thinking that leads to chaos and destruction. The Council system prevents such disasters. The Council system prevents everything, replied a young Zephyrian from the same delegation. When was the last time our people created something new? When did we last discover anything beyond what the Council deemed appropriate? The older Zephyrian looked shocked at being challenged by a member of his own species. Around the chamber, Lee could see similar conversations beginning in other delegations. Velthara raised his voice to restore order. Enough! This ridiculous proposal changes nothing. Humanity is one small world with barely a century of spaceflight. You cannot seriously expect established civilizations to abandon proven systems. Based on the wild claims of a primitive species, Lee nodded to Park So-min, who activated one final display. This showed real-time feeds from human colonies, human research stations, and most impressively, human ships successfully navigating regions of space that Council vessels could not even approach. "The proof is not in our claims," Lee said quietly. "It is in our actions. We are not asking anyone to abandon anything. We are simply offering a choice that did not exist before." The chamber was no longer united in its reaction. Some sections showed clear hostility, others confusion, and a few showed something that looked like excitement. 7 days, Valthara announced suddenly. "We will give the Council 7 days to consider this proposal, but do not mistake our patience for weakness. The Council has maintained galactic peace for millennia. We will not allow that peace to be disrupted by the dangerous chaos of a single primitive world." As the session ended and representatives began filing out, Lee noticed that several of the younger beings were lingering, watching the human delegation with obvious interest. The revolution had begun. Dr. Yunji-Hai's image flickered slightly as the quantum communication link struggled to maintain connection across impossible distances. She was speaking from Earth to the emergency council session, using technology that half the representatives still believed was fake. "Honored council members," Jahai began, her voice clear despite the vast distance, "you have asked how humanity developed advanced technology while appearing primitive by your standards? The answer lies in fundamental differences in how we define progress." Valthara leaned forward in his chair, his skin displaying the deep blue color that indicated intense concentration. "Explain these differences, human scientist. Your civilization measures advancement through stability, predictability, and adherence to established patterns," Hai said, activating a holographic display that showed Council development models. "A successful species, in your view, is one that reaches an optimal state and maintains it indefinitely." Murmurs of agreement came from several parts of the chamber. This was indeed the Council's core philosophy. Humanity measures advancement through change, discovery, and the willingness to attempt the impossible, Jahai continued. "We advance not despite chaos, but because of it." An elderly Vorthak representative made a dismissive gesture. "Chaos leads to destruction. This is a basic principle of civilization. Does it?" "Hey," I asked, changing her display to show human historical data. "Look at our development pattern. Every major advancement in human civilization came from someone trying something that experts said was impossible." The display showed humanity's progression, from learning to control fire, to agriculture, to flight, to space travel. Each breakthrough had been considered impossible by the leading experts of its time. "Your Wright brothers were told that heavier-than-air flight was scientifically impossible," Jai explained. "Your Einstein was told his theories contradicted established physics. Your first computer programmers were told that machines could never think. And yet here we are," Lee Daeho added, "speaking to you through technology that your own experts claimed was theoretically impossible just days ago." Commander Lim Hyeon-woo's image joined the quantum link from humanity's colony in the void sectors. His presence caused another stir in the council chamber, as his location was supposed to be uninhabitable. "Commander Lim," Valthara said, his voice tight with barely controlled frustration, "your presence in that location violates several fundamental laws of physics." "With respect, Counselor," Lim replied, "it only violates laws that assume certain limitations. We chose not to accept those limitations." The display showed scenes from the human colony around him. Plants growing in quantum-charged soil, buildings that seemed to phase in and out of normal space-time, and energy collectors that gathered power from the chaotic storms that destroyed traditional spacecraft. "This is impossible," muttered a Kaurani scientist in the chamber. "It was impossible," Lim agreed. "Yesterday. But today it works, and tomorrow we will probably find a way to make it work better." Dr. Shin Ari joined the link from another location that Council databases marked as uninhabitable. The breakthrough in faster-than-light communication came from studying quantum entanglement in regions where spacetime itself is unstable. Traditional physics said such research would be fatal. We tried it anyway. "You could have destroyed your entire solar system," Valthara exclaimed. Yes, Shin agreed calmly. But we calculated the risk was worth the potential discovery. Sometimes progress requires accepting danger in exchange for possibility. The chamber was becoming divided. Older representatives looked horrified at the casual discussion of risking entire worlds for scientific advancement. Younger ones appeared fascinated. A young Threnody scientist named Nixara stood up. Dr. Shin, what other impossible projects are humans currently attempting? We have 17 research stations studying phenomena that Council Science considers too dangerous to investigate, Shin replied. We are attempting to create stable wormholes, manipulate gravity fields, and develop technology that operates outside normal physics. How many of these projects will succeed? Asked another young representative. Probably fewer than half, Shin admitted. Maybe fewer than a quarter. But the ones that do succeed will change everything we understand about the universe. And if they fail catastrophically, then we will learn from the failure and try something different. Professor Hamba Ora joined the quantum link, her image appearing alongside the other humans. I have been studying the development patterns of council-protected species. Every one follows the same trajectory, rapid advancement to a predetermined, optimal state, then complete stagnation. She displayed her research, showing civilization after civilization that had reached a plateau and never progressed beyond it. This is not natural development, Han continued. This is the result of systems that prioritize safety over growth, stability over discovery. An older Zephyrian representative stood up angrily. And what is wrong with stability? What is wrong with safety? The Council has prevented countless wars, famines, and disasters. The Council has prevented everything, replied a young Zephyrian from the same delegation, including the possibility that we might become something greater than we are. The older representative looked shocked. Keftal, you cannot mean that. Look at our people, Elder Morthic, Keftal replied. When did we last create something new? When did we last dream of possibilities beyond our current existence? We are safe, stable, and completely static. Similar conversations were breaking out throughout the chamber. Young representatives were questioning their elders, pointing out that their species had not advanced in any meaningful way for centuries. Captain Kang Soo-jin's image joined the quantum conference from her position, near Council space. I have been observing Council military installations and protected species transport systems. The evidence supports Professor Han's analysis. She displayed her reconnaissance data showing the flow of resources from protected worlds to Council facilities. Protected species are not just governed by the Council, Soo-jin reported. They are systematically harvested. Raw materials, manufactured goods, and specialized labor all flow from their worlds to support Council infrastructure. Those are voluntary contributions, Rothara protested. Protected species are happy to support the greater galactic community. Are they? Lee asked. When was the last time any protected species was given a choice about their contribution levels? When were they allowed to develop their own trade relationships with other species? The silence that followed suggested that such choices had never been offered. The human cooperative offers something different, Park So-min said. True partnership instead of benevolent control. The freedom to succeed or fail based on your own choices. The freedom to destroy yourselves, Vilthara replied. Yes, Lee agreed. That freedom too. Because without the possibility of failure, success has no meaning. Nixara stood up again. What would membership in this human cooperative actually involve? Equal participation in all decisions, Lee replied. Sharing of all technology and knowledge. The right to pursue any research or development you choose, even if others consider it dangerous or impossible. And if our research threatened other member species, then we would work together to find solutions that protect everyone while still allowing progress. But we would not simply forbid the research because it involved risk. More young representatives were standing now, asking questions about the human cooperative. Their elders were growing increasingly agitated. This is exactly what the Council was created to prevent, shouted an elderly Vorthek leader. Uncontrolled development leads to wars, disasters, and the destruction of entire civilizations. Controlled development leads to stagnation and death, replied a young Vorthak from the same delegation. Look at us, Elder. We have been safe and stable for 2,000 years. We have also been completely unchanged for 2,000 years. Valthara stood up, his skin cycling rapidly through angry colors. Enough! This discussion has gone too far. The Council will not be swayed by the dangerous philosophies of a primitive species. Then perhaps it is time for species to make their own choices. Li said quietly. The chamber fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. For the first time in galactic history, species were being offered an alternative to Council membership. 7 days, Valthara repeated, but his voice now carried a note of uncertainty. The Council will reach a decision in 7 days. As the session ended, Li noticed that the young representatives were no longer looking at the human delegation with curiosity. They were looking at them with hope. Admiral Oh Seung-won stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Unity, watching as the massive Council enforcement fleet approached. 200 warships, each one larger than any vessel humanity had ever built, moved in perfect formation toward Earth's solar system. Admiral, reported his communications officer, we have confirmed participation from 6 species. 43 ships total, plus our own fleet of 37 vessels. Oh nodded, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. In the 3 days since the Council had announced their intention to forcibly incorporate humanity, representatives from 6 different species had secretly left Council protection to join humanity's cause. The Threnody had sent 12 ships under Nixar's command. The young Zephyrians had brought 8 vessels. Even more surprising, a group of middle-aged Kelrani scientists had stolen 3 advanced research ships and fled Council space. The Vorthak rebels had contributed 10 military vessels, while 2 smaller species had sent their entire space fleets to join the resistance. Signal from the lead Council ship, his communications officer announced. Councilor Valthara is demanding immediate surrender of all rebel vessels and humanity's unconditional acceptance of Council protection. Open a channel to all ships, both Council and Cooperative, O ordered. Channel open, Admiral. O took a deep breath. The words he was about to speak would either mark the beginning of a new galactic age or the end of human civilization. Counselor Valthara, members of the Galactic Council, and representatives of species choosing freedom, O began. Today we demonstrate that the galaxy no longer has only one choice. The space between the 2 fleets shimmered as engineer Baimi Young activated humanity's newest defensive technology. Instead of weapons or shields, the human ships projected a field that made space itself more responsive to unconventional physics. What you are seeing is not an attack, O continued. It is a demonstration of what becomes possible when intelligent beings refuse to accept limitations. The Council fleet had stopped advancing, their sensors clearly detecting the anomalous energy readings but unable to classify what they were seeing. Admiral, Nixara's voice came over the quantum communication link from her Threnody vessel. My people are asking if this field technology could be used for deep space exploration. That was our intention, O replied. Imagine research stations that could exist in the hearts of stars, or colonies that could thrive in regions of space where matter itself behaves differently. Impossible, came Valthara's voice over the communication channel. Such technology would destabilize entire solar systems. Only if you assume the current state of physics is the final answer, responded Dr. Shin A-ri from her research vessel. We prefer to think of current physics as a starting point. O gestured to his communications officer, who activated the most advanced piece of human technology ever created. Using the quantum breakthrough that had allowed them to communicate instantly across galactic distances, they now broadcast simultaneously to every populated world in Council space. The message was simple but revolutionary: real-time images from human colonies in impossible locations, testimonials from species who had found freedom and growth outside Council control, and an open invitation for any being in the galaxy to choose their own path. Citizens of Council Worlds, Lee Daeho's voice carried across space to billions of beings. For the first time in your history, you have a choice. You can remain safe and stable under Council protection, or you can risk everything for the chance to become something greater. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Communication channels across Council space lit up with messages from young beings on dozens of worlds, asking questions about the human cooperative, requesting information about joining the resistance, and challenging their own government's acceptance of eternal stagnation. This is chaos. Velthara's voice crackled with anger and fear. You are destroying the order that has kept the galaxy peaceful for millennia. We are offering choice where none existed before, O replied calmly. Those who value peace and stability can keep what they have. Those who value growth and possibility can try something new. On the bridge of the Unity, the communications officer looked up with amazement. Admiral, I'm receiving surrender requests from 17 Council vessels. Their crews are asking to join the cooperative. Oh, felt his heart racing. Patch me through to them. One by one, voices came across the communication system. Young officers, frustrated scientists, and beings who had spent their entire lives wondering what lay beyond the boundaries the Council had set for them. We volunteer for the dangerous research projects, said a Kalrani engineer. We want to see what becomes possible when we stop accepting limitations. Our exploration division requests assignment to the impossible regions, added a Vorthak captain. We have been curious about those areas for centuries. My research team wants to study the quantum manipulation technology, called a Threnody. Scientist. Even if the experiments might fail catastrophically. Oh looked around his bridge at the crew of humans who had volunteered for humanity's most dangerous mission. They were grinning with the excitement of beings who had just discovered they were not alone in their hunger for the unknown. All vessels requesting to join the cooperative are welcome, O announced. Report to coordinates that will be transmitted separately. Be aware that we offer no guarantee of safety, stability, or survival. We understand, came dozens of voices in response. We choose possibility over safety. The Council fleet was visibly fragmenting as individual ships broke formation and changed course toward the cooperative vessels. O estimated that nearly a quarter of the Council's force was defecting. This ends now. Velthara's voice boomed across all channels. All rebel vessels will be destroyed as threats to galactic stability. The remaining Council ships began powering their weapons, but they were no longer facing a small resistance force. The cooperative fleet now numbered over 100 vessels, including many of the Council's own advanced ships. Councillor Velthara, O said quietly, you are welcome to try. But you should know that every engagement will be broadcast live to every world in Council space. Your own people will watch you destroy those who chose freedom over security. The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute. O could imagine the frantic communications taking place within the Council command structure as they realized their situation had completely changed. The Council offers a compromise, Velthara finally announced. Rebel species may leave Council protection if they renounce any claim to Council resources or technology. Accepted, O replied immediately. We never wanted your resources. We wanted the freedom to find our own. 6 months later, Lee Daeho stood in the Assembly Hall of New Geneva Station, humanity's first major space habitat, watching representatives from 37 species take their seats for the inaugural meeting of the Human Cooperative Council. Park So-min, now serving as Director General of Interspecies Relations, called the Assembly to order. The first order of business is the approval of the Cooperative Charter, which establishes our fundamental principles. The charter was simple. All member species were equal. All research was permitted as long as it did not directly threaten other members, and any species could leave at any time for any reason. The second order of business, Park continued, is the establishment of joint research initiatives. We have 17 proposals for projects that the Galactic Council classified as too dangerous to attempt. Lee smiled as he listened to the excited discussions that followed. Proposals for exploring black hole interiors, creating artificial pocket universes and developing technology that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. The third order of business is a communication from the Galactic Council, Park announced. They have requested formal diplomatic relations with the human cooperative. The assembly fell quiet. After months of tension, the council was acknowledging the cooperative as a legitimate galactic power. What are they proposing? Asked Nixara from her seat in the Threnody section. Mutual non-interference, Park replied. They will govern their member species according to their principles, and we will operate according to ours. They also request permission to send observers to some of our research projects. Why would they want observers for projects they consider too dangerous? Asked Keftal from the Zephyrian delegation. Lee stood up to answer. Because even the council is curious about what becomes possible when you stop accepting limitations. They may not be willing to take the risks themselves, but they want to see what we discover. The vote was unanimous. The human cooperative would welcome council observers, just as they welcomed anyone who was curious about the unknown dot. As the assembly adjourned, Lee walked to the station's observation deck and looked out at the stars. In the distance, he could see the lights of research vessels heading toward regions of space that had been forbidden for millennia. Nearby, construction ships were building humanity's next impossible project, a colony ship designed to travel between galaxies. Commander Lim Haiyan Wu joined him at the observation window. Do you think we made the right choice? Lim asked. We could have accepted the council's protection and lived safely forever. Lee smiled, watching as a group of young beings from a dozen